All right, folks, Insightful Nomad here. Time for another video. This time it's the President of the United States, Donald Trump. This was before he entered office, but I have to say, my experience when I started working in the news back in 2017, that was just after Trump began his first term. Oh my God, we had the time of our life in the newsroom with President Trump. So much entertainment, and a lot of people made fun of him, but it turns out that on some issues, he is one of the few people who's able to voice and say what a lot of people are thinking and what also happens to be true. So let's take a look at what he had to say in this following clip.
Under Biden, we have not one but two immigration disasters. We have one on the border, and we have one in the Biden State Department, which is admitting colossal amounts of jihadists into our communities and campuses and our refugee programs. That's why you see all of these big demonstrations in New York, in Chicago. Nobody can believe what's taking place. They're letting them in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We cannot allow that to happen, and we don't want to be like Europe with jihads on every corner. That's what happens. I mean, we're going to be like Europe. You take a look at London, you take a look at Paris, you take a look at what's going on over there. We want to be the United States of America, and we want to make our country great again. Right now, we don't have a great country. We have a laughingstock. As president, I will end once and for all the mass importation of anti-Semitism into the United States. And just as I did before, we will keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country. We're going to keep them out of our country. We were keeping them out. We were keeping them out.
And you see, this is, I mean, look, this isn't to be a knock on Europe, London, Paris. They're great cities, and there's lots of amazing people. Lots of amazing people immigrated to those places, including Muslims. But they do have a massive problem of terrorism in those countries. Look at what happened in Paris with the Charlie Hebdo killings, the Bataclan, beheading a school teacher. In England, you had the London Underground bombings. You had the assassination of a lawmaker. Martin Amis was his name, I don't remember, who was just stabbed by somebody, the Manchester bombing, and it goes on and on and on. So this is a significant problem. And President Trump is talking about it and saying, look, we don't want this to happen in the United States.
Remember the travel ban. On day one, I will restore our travel ban. We had a travel ban because we didn't want people coming into our country who really love the idea of blowing our country up. Let's blow up our streets and our shopping centers.
Literally, figuratively.
So I instituted what we call the Trump travel ban, and it was an amazing success. It was suspended immediately upon his coming into the country. And I never talked about this for 4 years. I never mentioned it. We didn't have one incident in 4 years because we kept bad people the hell out of our country. We kept them out. We didn't have not one instance. I didn't want to say it during the 4 years because I didn't want to walk out of the speech and have something happen, right?
You gotta love the Trump exaggerations. We didn't have one incident. They had some incidents, but, you know, we'll let it slide.
Implementing strong ideological screenings for all immigrants coming in. If you hate America, if you want to abolish Israel, if you sympathize with jihadists, then we don't want you in our country, and you're not going to be getting into our country.
Yeah, all the Hamas supporters that have been imported that are on college campuses. President Trump saying, we don't want you here.
I will cancel the student visas of Hamas and sympathizers on college campuses. The college campuses are being taken over. And all of the resident aliens who joined in the pro-jihadist protest this month, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Come 2025, we will find you and we will deport you. We will deport you. It's caused by some very bad troublemakers, those events that you've been watching. In the past 3 weeks, crooked Joe Biden has turned a blind eye to the greatest outbreak of anti-Semitism in American history. You have the greatest. I call up friends of mine who happen to be Jewish. I say, are you watching what's going on? And they're actually frightened. And these are some pretty strong people. They're tough people. They're frightened. Their kids are afraid to go to school. And they never had that before. But in our colleges, media, and even government, nobody's ever seen anything like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar who openly campaign against Israel. Nobody's ever seen this before. When asked recently about rising anti-Semitic hate, Joe Biden's own press secretary had nothing to say about the rabid mobs in the street, and they're shouting, "Kill the Jews, kill the Jews," and she had nothing to say. In fact, she stuck up for the other side. She started talking about the other side. You all saw it. Nobody could believe it. Then she came back later, she said, "Oh, I misunderstood the question." As president, I will absolutely protect our Jewish citizens from these maniacs, lunatics, radical left thugs. Threats or crimes of violence against Jews will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Right now, they go after Republicans, including me. They go after lots of people. They go after Catholics. I don't know what it is with the Catholics, but they're really after the Catholics, and they're after people wanting to make their school district better. This is a strange thing that's happening in our country. While in office, I took the strongest action of any president in history to combat the vile scourge of anti-Semitism. You know that. I signed a landmark executive order fighting anti-Semitic hate on college campuses and affirming that discrimination against Jewish students will be aggressively punished as a violation of civil rights. And that we didn't have that, if you can believe it.
Probably talking a little bit about how all these Jewish students on campuses were being harassed, attacked. At one point, they were barricaded inside a library in one of the schools, barred from joining various groups and stuff unless they brandish their anti-Zionist credentials, so to speak. Some of the things that's been going on, you know.
Back into office, I will put every single university and college president on notice. The American taxpayer will not subsidize the creation of terrorist sympathizers on American soil. Colleges and universities will purge the anti-Semitism and pro-terrorism. What you're doing, the terrorism, this pro-terrorism is so out of control. Nobody's ever seen, or they will lose their accreditation and every last penny of federal student loans. It will not be paid to them, probably shouldn't be paid to them anyway. Never forget, the same radicals tearing down posters of Israeli hostages, can you imagine, at our university, ripping them right off the wall, I couldn't believe it, are the ones tearing down statues of our American heroes, defunding our police, destroying our justice system, and demolishing our borders. These are the same people that you have, same people, not good people for us. The United States and Israel represent the pinnacle of Western civilization, which is exactly what these people want to destroy. They want to destroy it. This is why those who chant death to Israel also chant always death to America. Do you ever notice? They always put them together, and that's why.
Unbelievable. So, like, sometimes President Trump, I mean, people make fun of this guy. They've made fun of this guy. They've attacked him so much. And, you know, he's disappointed me on some issues. He's not perfect. And I understand a lot of the criticism, but sometimes what he says is just so true. It's so true. And what he said there, that the people, when they say death to America and they say death to Israel, they say death to America. The ones who are marching in the streets on the whole, you know, the war in Gaza and against Israel, they will say death to America. They'll burn an Israeli flag. They'll burn an American flag. And the people who protest in support of Israel will never do such a thing. They'll wave the U.S. flag in their protests. The people who protest, the Hamas supporting protests, they will never wave an American flag ever because they hate America. And he just nailed it right on the head. He said it as it is so perfectly. And I wish people would give him some credit for that, the ones who hate Trump, you know?
American patriots and supporters of Israel, and you have tremendous support in this country, I can tell you that, must stick together, come hell or high water. You have to stick together. We must have strong borders, strong military, strong families, strong cultures, and above all, we must have a strong American president. That's where it starts. You don't have a strong president, the rest is just words. It's only words. It's only words. You never had any of these problems. For 4 years, you didn't have any of these problems. Think of it. You wouldn't have Ukraine. You wouldn't have Israel being attacked. You wouldn't have inflation. You wouldn't have
Nothing bad would happen if I were president. Nothing. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some of it would have happened. Maybe some not. We'll never know.
anything. You'd have gasoline selling at $1.87. I will defend our friend and ally, the State of Israel, like nobody has ever defended it before. Thank you. I love you. Make America great again. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, Mr. Trump, saying it as it is on that issue, which is one of the things that makes him very popular among a lot of people, where he just said the people who hate Israel are the people who hate America. Full stop. And that is so true. I will say, though, that and he was talking about the Jew haters and the Israel haters on the far left that are kind of running rampant in the U.S. universities during the Biden administration and also later. He did not talk in that video about some of the stuff that's coming from the right wing, from the pro-Trump camp. Although on that issue, they're very angry at Trump that he supports Israel and doesn't talk enough about the Jews, doing 9/11 or controlling America, according to them. I'm talking about the people, like Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, and even in places like Joe Rogan and other podcasts, in that sphere of the kind of Trump supporting podcast land world, it's pretty rough. There are people there who just absolutely hate Jews. They come up with all these crazy conspiracy theories about Jews day in, day out, about Israel day in, day out. So that exists as well, and Trump didn't address that because that's his own camp, and we got to be aware of that as well. And just one more point regarding when he said they attack Israel and they attack Jews. I know the number one thing response, knee-jerk response a lot of people will have is to say criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitism. And I agree, criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitism. I criticize Israel a lot. Maybe not as much on camera as I do off camera, but a lot. I'm not a fan of the Netanyahu government. I criticize his right-wing coalition members in particular, meaning the guys like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir frequently. I think a lot of the things, the way they've gone about the war in Gaza has been extremely problematic, and I say that. There's a big difference between criticizing Israel and, marching with Hamas and saying death to Israel, or Israel needs to be wiped off the face of the earth. Those are two things that are a little bit different. There's a big difference between someone who criticizes you kind of as a friend and wants you to improve and change your policies for the better, and someone who just hates you and wants to attack you relentlessly all day, every day. Those are two very different things. And so, just to say, yes, you can criticize Israel. I think, though, that if you obsessively march in the name of destroying Israel or from the river to the sea, that's not exactly criticizing. That's something a little bit different. Anyway, that's all for this video. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.